Welcome to episode 50 of the Ski Podcast. That's one podcast, nearly one podcast for every year of Ian Martin's life. The podcast is supported by Switzerland Tourism. Why, you may ask? It's because it's the best skiing country in the world. Verbier, Zermatt, Crans-Montana, Grindelwald, St. Moritz, some of the biggest names in ski resorts. Put it this way, there's so much skiing in Switzerland, you'd never get bored. Unlike New Zealanders, where the entire skiing of New Zealand would just fit into Zermatt alone. There you go.
Is that a true fact?
Yeah, I added some numbers up, and I assume it's a true fact. I've not had it corroborated by an official group of people.
Well, we deliver loads of facts in this podcast that subsequently proved to be a bit dubious. But anyway, good morning, Jim.
Good morning. Don't forget to get in touch with the show. If you're listening, you can email us, Jim at the Ski Podcast or Ian at the Ski Podcast. Find us on Twitter at the Ski Podcast. We're on Facebook as well. And then obviously you can get us on Instagram at The Average Skier or Ian at Skipedia on Twitter. Coming up today's show, I'm going to be testing out the ski area San Luc. Ian has been trekking in the Pyrenees. We have some pointers for people heading to Bulgaria, and I will reveal the most average ski resorts in the world. First of all, Ian, let's talk about snow. Got any snow in Brighton?
No, been throwing it down with rain almost non-stop, but no snow here. But out in the Alps where you are, bit of a different story, right?
Well, do you know what? I was actually wondering if I could be bothered to find out the makeup or work out the fact of how deep the snow would be if we counted the rain that has fallen this winter. It would probably be pretty deep, but I don't have that information. Yeah, it snowed quite a lot up high. There's been meters and meters of snow. Snowmageddon 2020 it's a mini Snowmageddon this year, I think. But there's still loads more to come. But then again, it has been raining under 1,200. I think it's been raining up to 2,000 last night.
Really? Okay.
Crazy season.
Yeah, those temperatures bouncing around quite a lot. In fact, Dave mentioned that when he was on the last episode of the podcast. Talking of which, should say this is episode 50. So I think we should give ourselves a bit of a small round of applause for getting this far over the last. I've lost track of how many years it is, 2.5 or something like that.
I will intercut a sound effect clip of applause right now.
Although, to be fair, this is actually looking at Audio Boom. This is our 67th episode, possibly with all the specials and the Winter Olympics ones and things like that. But officially, number 50.
50 of the main show. Well done, us.
Yeah. Dave, I didn't say anything about it at the time when he was talking about it on the show. I think because I was being polite, but he was going.
I think it's because you wanted to go skiing in.
He was going, some years you get a lot of snow and some years you don't get that much. And it sounded a bit like he was a climate change denier. The fact is that change of temperatures that you're talking about, when it goes, it's been leaping 20 degrees on one day. And I should have chipped in about it then as well, that, you've got to accept the fact that the climate is changing and we see global warming in the mountains. And also, I didn't pick you up on your comment saying, oh, it's fine, using a helicopter to shift snow. You think of all the jobs it's protecting. I mean, I would say that's a false economy, using a helicopter to move snow to protect jobs that have no future in the medium term. It's a pointless exercise. So there you go. I'm saying it 2 weeks late.
But do you not think that just picking on one resort for using a helicopter isn't really the answer? I mean, that's the equivalent of saying that my Argentinian avocados that have been flown across the world have got some netting on it. The idea is you've just got to stop buying avocados if your problem is that's causing climate change, right?
But isn't what you're saying there rather like this resort? I can't actually recall what it's called now, but in the Massif Central that's gone into receivership because they haven't had enough snow this year. They haven't had enough people buying lift passes, and so therefore, they're going out of business or they're going into receivership. Ultimately, you get to a point where people don't go skiing, and therefore, that ski resort will close.
Well, this is very let the markets decide attitude, isn't it, Ian?
Well, I think to a certain degree,
But in this
it
particular
is.
case of the helicopter, right? They had all the staff employed. The people needed their jobs. It was the busy week. People were going to come, so they put the helicopter in. It obviously contributed to climate. Putting fuel into the atmosphere and stuff like that. But then so does driving to resort, going skiing. That all contributes. But in the short term, it did save those people's jobs, giving them more chance to find employment later on.
Well, I have to say that's a very convincing argument there, Jim. You've put it very well. Although you did say about getting to resort, I'll just chip in skiflightfree.org, alternative ways of getting to the Alps. I should point out though,
we took donkeys.
Yeah, one thing that Dave did say, he was saying, "Oh, why don't they put solar panels on lifts?" And I couldn't really think of any good reason why not. I'm struggling around, but I noticed as I was reading around about the subject that there is the world's first drag lift to be 100% solar panel powered at Tenna in Switzerland, and it has tilting panels hanging above its 450-meter length. So the technology does exist and it is possible. So it's a very good point, Dave, and I think more ski resorts should be looking into that. There must be a reason why there aren't more, but evidently it's possible to run a lift with solar power.
And also what they really need is they need more people who aren't skiing to go up the mountain at the same time. So they would go up, they would enjoy the mountain, and then they would come down on the chairlift, introducing a small funicular factor by using a counterweight. So those people would increase the pull down, decreasing the use of energy. I did wonder actually, Ian, and I want to find this out, and if you can tell me who we can ask, do chairlifts use less energy when there's no one on them? Because you see them, like yesterday, I'm pretty sure there were chairlifts turning up the road with no one on them in the rain. Do they need more power when I'm sat on them or not?
That's a good question. I would imagine they must need more power. What I did discover when I went to see Les Arcs back in December is that over there they run, when it's a kind of low volume day, they actually slow down the chairlifts. So they're not running them as fast if there's fewer people on the mountain, as a way of using less energy. But whether or not...
That's just mean.
Well, I did think that, they're still paying the same price for lift pass, but then I don't know if you think you queue less, so therefore your skiing time might be the same, or whether they just slow them down on a sort of imperceptible level to the clients, but actually just by slowing them down by a small percentage, they end up, saving a lot of energy.
Well, I'll tell you what, the pain of it the other day, on Wednesday, I went out, I got up, it was snowing quite heavily, but we thought we'd go and play in the trees, but it was still quite windy. And what normally would be a 7-minute cable car ride was taking around about 20-25 minutes because they slowed it down so much because of the wind. And that was it. It was quite frustrating in a way.
But then again, at least, yeah, and at least they ran it, because obviously, I've been looking on Twitter, and I do some work for the Three Valleys, and you see people complaining, going, "Why are the lifts not open?" When the avalanche dangers, gone up to 4 out of 5, and they're talking about why is it only the lower lifts around, the lift passes are so expensive, etc. But they don't necessarily think about
how expensive their life is.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, good point. But yeah, sometimes lifts do close in high winds, so I'd be happy if it went even at slow speed.
We did get a double powder day actually. So Wednesday it was nice, played in the trees. Thursday got up early to get up the lifts before anyone else. Obviously, loads of people did that. It wasn't just me thinking I've worked out the secret. But we got there, and we were in the queue for an hour because they didn't open for security reasons. Then it opened, we skied, but they didn't open the second half of La Balme in the Cluse. Yeah. And we thought, oh, they're going to open it honestly. And I was like, eventually I had to go skiing with my children because it's half term. But that was nice anyway. They got buried in a lot of powder. It was really deep. They were trying to explain to them how deep it was. Like, you need a snorkel for your size. But so they kept half of the higher slopes closed, and they didn't open them. And then the next day they opened at 8 o'clock in the morning. So you could go up and get a second day if you were keen enough to get fresh tracks, which I quite liked, and I did do.
8 in the morning. That is very exciting. Yeah.
O'clock in the
Although I'm
morning.
slightly concerned about your children kind of needing snorkels to go skiing. They're obviously,
Short.
good short, yeah, and good skiers.
They're all right skiers, yeah. I mean, they're no experts. Yes, maybe they will be. Who knows?
Mhm.
Right, let's move on. That's that chat
Yep.
about snow. Right, let me have a look at the notes here. Oh yeah, I just wanted to say, Ian, I've got a really important fact for you, and as you know, I'm a super scientist, and I just want to say that skiing actually cures coronavirus. Right, so I've been. Do you fancy listening to me skiing in Saint Luc?
Yeah, definitely.
There we go. So yeah, I was really enjoying it, and I have actually got around to reviewing the resort, and I'm going to tell you my review now. Ready, Ian?
Yep.
It was so much fun. It was a town. It's a town perched on the side of the mountain. You can't see the slopes from the town, which is I always find a bit strange. But you can see across the Val d'Anniver. You can see Gruments and Zinal in the distance. Saint Luc is it's got 60 kilometers of piste, but it doesn't feel like it, and this is the key thing. It's got a funicular which pleases me massively. Has quite a long season. It's 3,025 meters high. It has some of the best snow in the area. It's 58 chuffs for a day, 250 chuffs for the season. But the skiing, Ian, it was so absorbing, right? You know, you go to some resorts and you just feel like you're turning on a big wide run, or you're concentrating a bit on what you're doing, or you get obsessed by something, or you're going somewhere. This place was like a little magical wonderland where I just felt like I was lost, but having fun all the time. Like you look around and you go, I can't understand where all these runs are. And then you catch one, you get a glimpse of another one in the distance.
Great.
Or
And does this link in with the Gruments-Zinal area as well?
No, it doesn't link. If you've got to drive to Gruments,
right,
it's quite a long way. But when
I
you
went to Saint Luc in the summer on my trail running trip with Switzerland Tourism. Hard to imagine, I guess, what it's like in winter. We kind of ran underneath some of the lifts, but clearly a good one to go to.
It's really good. I mean, I got there, I thought this is going to be rubbish. It's full of drag lifts, right? But every time I got to the drag lift, and I felt like I was genuinely rewarded for the persistence of catching a really long drag lift. And all the runs are just really engaging, and you kind of forget about skiing in a way. You are just in the moment enjoying each of these runs, which I think is a different experience. I don't often find that happens.
Last year, I think I'm right in saying that you went to Gruments, did you? So you skied it.
I went to
Gruments. Both the Val d'Annivière, is it? Val d'Annivière.
I think so.
Yeah, up from Sion. So on the other side of the valley, you've got Crans-Montana, and then on the south-facing side of the valley, you've got Saint Luc and Gruments. Yeah, done well. And that was on your Magic Pass as well, was it?
That was on my Magic Pass. You can ski there on a Magic Pass. I wouldn't ski it in flat light. You probably wouldn't enjoy it. It's quite barren.
Yeah.
But as soon as that sun comes out, it's amazing. I must talk about the accommodation as well, Ian. I stayed in the most amazing hotel I've ever stayed in. It was called the Hotel Belle Étoile. I was hosted by this complete character called Anne-Francoise Favre. And she is a proper old school hotelier, the sort of person that welcomes you, comes to your table every night to meet you. It's a boutique hotel. They've developed it over years. They've got a little chalet that they run down the road. The wine they served is from the kids. They're one of their nieces and nephews.
Right.
So if you're going to go to Saint Luc, and I genuinely, it should be on everyone's list.
Okay. I just googled it. I see it's a family-run. Oh wow, it looks great. Yeah, aren't you the lucky one?
And the food was outstanding. Like, definitely go. One of her daughters works on the world tour, and she promised she'd come and talk to us about her experience on that. And also, when I was there, I spoke to Julien from the Anniver's marketing company, so the tourist office, and he came up, and he was very interested to chat to me because, well, he was on the recording we just played. They've just started a podcast series for the Val d'Anniver's themselves,
right?
Interviewing people like Anne-Francoise. So
Okay, well, I always think that's a good
there's
idea.
an observatory, Ian.
Right,
They've got an observatory there.
They've got everything. Well, I have my own trip to Switzerland coming up soon. Thanks to Switzerland Tourism Hour, my sponsor of the podcast. I'm off to 2 resorts. I'm going to Arosa and Andermatt. So they're in a different area of Switzerland from where you've been along the Valais. I'll be going by train, so I'm going to Eurostar to Paris, down to Basel, and then picking up internal Swiss railways. So everything will be bang on time, hopefully. And Arosa, never been there before. Meant to be a reasonable ski area. There's a hotel there that has strong sustainable credentials. So I'm going to check that out, and then I'm going to Andermatt to do a bit of.
Are you checking it out? Or are you staying at it?
I am staying at it for 1 night, yes, and then I'm going to.
I wondered, are you checking it out, but you're actually staying at the coal-powered hotel just around the corner?
Right, no, and then hopefully a bit of off-piste in Andermatt with a guide. So we'll see how that goes. Looking forward to that. And I was actually at Switzerland's summer launch in London this week, which was a bit bloody cold.
They're launching Switzerland in London. That's a bit confusing.
Well, they're launching their summer
pretty
program.
well established.
Yeah, all of the different things you could do. There was a kind of quiz thing, which my team were lucky enough to win a bottle of wine for our efforts, and it basically revolved around fake news. They had a whole bunch of different news items, and you had to guess whether they were true or false, and they were to do with Switzerland. So I'm going to test you, Jim. Are you ready for this? I haven't given any pre-warning. Okay,
I am a Switzerland tourism expert. I mean, I struggle to say the name, but I do know a lot about Switzerland.
Okay, first one then.
True, all resorts will fit into New Zealand.
The Swiss Yodeling Championships will take place in Basel this summer.
True.
It is true. Apparently 12,000 people are going to take part. It's the 31st Swiss Yodeling Festival, and it's at the end of June if you want to go there. Okay. Second one, Lindt Chocolate are celebrating the 175th anniversary this year. They're going to have a new shop in Zurich called the Lindt Home of Chocolate, and in the foyer they're going to have a chocolate fountain that is 8 meters high. Do you think that's true?
I think it's false. There is going to be a chocolate mountain, but it's not 8 meters high. Otherwise, it'd be a waste of time you saying all
that. Well, there you go. I'll let you say it is 8 meters high. 8 meters high chocolate fountain. My daughter is very. She says, "Can we go? Can we go? Can we go?" I don't know what it makes it. I can't remember visualizing a scene from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or something. Okay,
nothing will stem the rise of coronavirus more than a massive 8 meter shared chocolate fountain.
Yeah. Okay, and then this one in the Engadin Valley, you can do cow yoga. It's been proven to help with relaxation and to de-stress.
I want it to be true, but it's probably false.
You're correct. It is false, but you can do goat yoga.
Really?
Practicing yoga with goats is a real thing and proven to help with relaxation and to de-stress in the Engadin Valley.
Why can't you do it with cows? Surely it's the same thing. You're just doing yoga near an animal.
Yeah, that's what it says. And they've got a picture of a goat in the foreground and some people doing yoga in the background. So there you go.
Yoga. Just there doing a downward dog, and then a cat jumps on my back. It makes it less relaxing, but my reactions are definitely quicker as it digs its claws into my back.
Yeah, probably not something you're going to have with goat yoga. So there you go. Things to look forward to.
Goats climb on your back. They're mountain goats.
Yeah, that wasn't in the picture either.
You've got to maintain that position while the goat also. I bet the goats are pretty good at yoga anyway, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, there we go. That's an exciting. Anything else from the Switzerland launch? The launch of Switzerland, the new country.
Well, there were loads and loads of things, but those are the salient points. Yeah.
and they're definitely going to sponsor us next year. They said, I'm pretty sure that's what they said. That's what we need to as well.
Yeah, that would be the sensible decision.
Or they're launching their own podcast. Right, let's move back to France now, and we'll go right to the south of France, where we'll find the Pyrenees.
Okay, yeah. I think I was expecting Bulgaria to be next, but that's fine. Pyrenees. No, last time we spoke, I was out there. We had a few days skiing. Snow wasn't particularly good, but we had a good time. But on the final day, we had like a half a day, and we decided not to ski and went up to the national park there called the Pont d'Espagne, and it's absolutely beautiful. We went with a guide who took us through the forest, definitely away from the beaten track. There is literally a beaten track that you can walk up to a frozen lake up there. And yeah, it was just glorious. And I'll stick some photos in the show notes so you can see them on Skipedia on Facebook. But I would never be able to get the kids to go for a walk normally. But we walked up to this Lac de Gobe, which is completely frozen over, slightly thinner ice than normal, so you couldn't walk across it. But just a beautiful way to spend some time in the mountains. And as Dave observed, in our last episode 49, very accurately, I'm very happy to I love skiing, but I love being in the mountains and just being with nature. And if you're that sort of person, listener, then you would really enjoy going up to the Pont d'Espagne from Courtrai in the French Pyrenees. You can get buses up there and go into the park and just walk with snowshoes normally if there was more snow, or just regular shoes. Just beautiful.
I mean, looking on the map, the Pont d'Espagne seems to be quite a long way from Spain.
Does it? My impression was Spain is on the other side of the park. It's the Pont d'Espagne, the bridge of Spain. It's the bridge between France and Spain. I think if you went along that valley.
Yeah, I mean, it looks, I suppose it's quite a long walk. I was just expecting it literally to be right next door, but there we go. That's my issue with cartography done. Anything else to tell me about
that? Not particularly. I just recommend it as a mix. I mean, if you're going to somewhere like Courtrai, where you've only got, I think, 35 kilometers of slopes. I mean, we also skied over in Grand Tourmalet, which is a 45-minute drive away. And there are 100 kilometers of slopes over there, a lot more skiing, but mix it up. I think that in the absence of some good ski touring, which is what I normally like to do, this is a great way to kind of get away from it all and get a bit of nature. And if you're not into the walking, there is actually a little chairlift that you can go up and then walk up to the lake if you've got younger children. Or
did you just need normal walking boots, welly boots, or did you have rackets on?
There wasn't enough snow for rackets, so we just had normal walking shoes. Yeah.
Fine. Good. Well, there we go. Our children like walking. I managed to convince them that they enjoy it. I have to lie to them about something that's going to happen at the top. Normally involves Haribo. There's a Haribo shop at the top of that mountain. Oh, wasn't there last time, Dad? It's definitely there now. Right. Let's go to Bulgaria next. God, this is a countrywide, worldwide travel show, isn't it? Bulgaria. I've been there a few times. Last time I was there, I spoke to Gary, who is a rep. Also, very excitingly, you don't meet many Garys these days. My middle name's Gary. My dad's called Gary.
Right.
I mean, my middle name is Gary. I mean, how little did they care about that? Or what should we do? Gary. It's like they gave up. But at least it's got to be Tarquin or something like that. There's a point of a middle name. It's got to be really embarrassing in an outlandish way, not just Gary. Anyway, I met a Gary. He was a rep with Balkan Holidays. Here's what he told me about winning when you're on a ski holiday in Patsko. So yeah, that was Gary. I travelled with. I'll try that again. So that was Gary, the Balkan Holidays rep who I travelled with. Not Gary, obviously. I travelled with Balkan Holidays. To find out what I thought about the resort, you can listen to episode 48. And if you're going, then I suggest that you go and check out the holidays that balkanholidays.co.uk has on their website. They've got a nice range.
Cool. I've got a question. Can I come back to your Gary middle name?
Yeah, sure.
I recently noticed, amongst the festivals that may or may not still be going ahead in the Alps, there's one called Zermatt Unplugged happening in Zermatt right at the end of the season.
It'd be annoying if you'd written a whole blog about that and then suddenly they cancelled the event.
Funny that. Well, anyway, Dido is playing at that event, and I was just doing a bit of fact checking about Dido, and you think, well, that's an unusual name, but her given name is Dido Florian Cloud de Bunvial O'Malley Armstrong. So
that's the sort of effort I expect from her.
That's, I was thinking about that with your Gary. If only she'd been Dido Gary Armstrong, that would have been just
Kath. Dido Kath.
Zermatt Unplugged. I'll stick a link in the show notes to that. Got any reviews, Jim?
Looks like there's just one, Ian. Am I right, or is there more? Have I not read the carefully prepared notes that you sent?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I couldn't find any more. So, listener, if you're listening to this show and you are enjoying it, pop onto Apple Podcasts or iTunes and give us a review, because it generally helps other people find it. Plus, it gives us something to read at this point in the show. But you've got one there. What do they say, Jim?
It's Jack Gary Hennessy, and he says he really enjoyed listening to the pod on Spotify as a first timer. There you go. That's a great review. I think it's an email, wasn't it?
It was. I think he also said he couldn't leave a review on Spotify. So I think Spotify designers, if you're there, then maybe you should add that in as an option.
Also, last week, Ian, we did talk about the fact that we've got a trip planned in March where you can come and ski with podcasters like us, and
March 2021.
March 2021, that March. And we've had quite a few people who are interested in coming, so don't feel like be the only person. So if you do want to come on the podcast ski trip to Morjan in the Porte du Soleil with us in March next year, do email us and we'll put you on the list and contact you once it's all decided upon. So yeah, and everyone obviously who emailed in to say that they want to come on the trip did also say how much they love the podcast.
Right, okay, that's good to hear. I believe that you have had this theory for quite some time about you've been plugging this one, the most average of all ski resorts. Now, to me, that sounds like a bit of a negative slur, isn't it? Being an average ski resort, or is there more to it than that?
It's all based on numbers. I'll tell you what, first of all, let's the person who did the research for us, because I'm too lazy to do it myself, was Dave Froome from ifyouski.com.
Oh yeah.
So Dave, he can tell us exactly what the resort is and how we found out about it. So that was Dave explaining that Courmayeur is the most average ski resort. Have you been to Courmayeur, Ian?
Yeah, I've been there a few times. Yeah, I've been there for the City Ski Championships when they were held there. Can't remember where they're held now. Verbier maybe, or Crans-Montana possibly. But went there a few years for that. In fact, with a natives team that involved, also included John Tregell, James Gambrell, who's the organizer of Listex, John Tregell, who's the author of Sham, who we interviewed in the previous episode, and another chap called Phil Martin, who used to work for me. We won the parallel slalom, much to the annoyance of Lloyd's of London and all of these other city boys. And I'll tell you something about it. We won it the first year we went, and we went again for the second year. And the organisers came up to us and said, "Look, it's a little embarrassing. Would you mind not winning this time round?" And we had to draw straws and decide who was going to take a dive in the fourth round. And I think in the end it was Phil who accidentally missed a gate during the head-to-head. So we annoyed all the city boys, and then we had to take it on the chin and let them win. There you go. That's a secret exposed by the podcast.
Well, I hope if any of those people are listening now that they feel awful about the fact that they're not that good, really. All right. And so, do you know what, Ian? Let's find out more about Courmayeur, because I don't want it just to be an average resort and we're just saying based on stats. I've spoken to Martina from the Ski Guru, and I interviewed her, and she told me all about what she thought of Courmayeur, and then I told her why. we're talking to her about it. So there we go. That is all you need to know about the world's most average ski resort. I wonder what the people of Courmayeur are going to say about
that. I don't know. I mean,
it's not a bad thing, is it? It's a really nice resort. I've been to the town.
Surely it's better to be average than to be below average, right?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to have less than, I don't know, 16 ski lifts, because that would be less than average, yeah.
But I've really
we talk about the big resorts all the time, and they are, way above average. And then if you just take into account all the smaller resorts, that brings the average down. So if we had got rid of like the Three Valleys, Zermatt, and all these big super places, Courmayeur would probably be right at the top.
Oh yeah, I mean that's stats that you're talking about there.
That's just numbers and math.
That we don't ignore the small resorts. I mean, your reviews that you've been doing, from the Valais of Saint Luc and Val d'Arène and Anzère are all resorts that probably most listener, you may not have ever heard of those resorts, and as a consequence of Jim visiting them, you might think, oh, that's an interesting idea. Maybe I'll do Magic Pass. I think we have broad coverage. Yeah, we do mention the Three Valleys, quite a lot, and other such places. But I think we cover everything here. Pyrenees, we went to Courtrai. Yeah. That's a 30-kilometer resort with, I don't even know how many lifts are there, but not that many. We cover it all in the Ski Podcast, listener. Hopefully you agree with that.
I'm still hoping to get to I think it's Seminoz, which is just at the end of Lake Annecy. It was closed for a while due to the lack of snow, so hopefully that'll be open and I can go there and tell you if it's any good.
And in the summer you can cycle up there. That's it was a stage on the Tour de France a few years ago, and it's a very, very steep ascent to Seminoz at the top.
Well, maybe I don't know where they're going this year. They're going past my house this year. That's all I know. I don't know much about cycling. Ian.
That's great. They're going past your house. Get out there for the day. That'd be brilliant.
I'll be cheering them on. Woohoo. I'm going to put a camper van there anyway, just to annoy someone else. So that was that. We've got our ski book group on the go. What are we reading?
We're reading Aiming High by Erna Lowe. And I think by the sounds of it, we're going to be reviewing it in our next episode, in episode 51. And I'm very excited because I interviewed Mark Frary earlier this week, who's the author of that book. So we'll be able to drop in, part of that interview, and maybe we'll have a separate episode about it, because he had had a lot to say about it, and he spent a lot of time. He spent over a year working on it, on the research side of things.
I have to say, and the prologue is amazing.
Well, actually, I'll tell you now. You're talking about that story. He went into this room that was shown to him when he was first given the job to do the research, and Erna Lowe was a bit of a hoarder. She kept all this information, but in a completely random order. And as he was going through all of this, he found a letter which was an indicator as to what you're talking about, which is an avalanche, or a bus went off the road on the way to St Anton, and had to then go to the British Museum to cross-check the details to find out more about it. These days, if a tour operator was operating a transfer or a bus and there were fatalities, we wouldn't hear the line. Probably the end of the company. I mean, that kind of a tragedy like that. Whereas this was almost just a footnote. He only found out about it by chance when he was going through all the papers.
Yeah. So they cover that more in the actual story, in the actual book.
It'll be mentioned again in the book, depending how far you've got into it. Yeah.
Cool. I'm a chapter into it. I'm having trouble sleeping at night, and I keep falling asleep while I start reading it. And it's not a diss on the book. It's just how my life is at the moment. I keep waking up at 3 and then not falling, and then struggling to go back to sleep. So
okay. So listener, if you're suffering from insomnia, Aiming High, the life of ski and travel pioneer Erna Lowe is what you need to read in very small chunks. And if you can do that over the next couple of weeks, and you can listen to our chat about
a year at the rate I'm going.
Episode 50. Well, we'll call it episode 51, or maybe episode 52 then.
I might take it on the chairlift. Have you ever read a book on a chairlift, Ian?
No, I can't claim that. I mean, maybe a peace map. Does that count?
Nope.
No.
I've never done it. I'm tempted to start doing it. I want a little book, you know, so subtly do it. But I distinctly remember there was a KP who worked for us, and I think he went on. It's not those people you meet in the ski industry just doing one season. He had like a golden handshake deal with Lehman Brothers or something like that.
Oh yeah,
he was off, and he'd like done degrees in quantum physics, and he had like thick tombs that he'd sit there just casually putting stuff through the dishwasher, clearly going that this isn't my career. I am just doing this so I can ski.
Yeah. And for the benefit of listeners or listener, if you've not done a ski season, KP kitchen porter, great
Pot
job
wash,
to have.
dishwasher.
Possibly the best job, I think.
That's what I tell
Zero
everyone.
responsibility. And therefore you don't have to deal with the guests at all. You're normally out the back, and you can get out onto the slopes really quickly because you don't have to fanny around making cakes or doing lift mask sales and things like that.
It's a very good job.
Yeah, often people like Jim in my seasons anyway, they were well brought up young men from public schools on their way to the city.
But the point is, he would go literally skiing with like a fat hardback, snowboarding with snowboard, fat hardback giant book of some sort of super educational literature in his pocket, and then just crack it out on the chairlift.
Okay,
there we go.
Okay,
but then again, people do that now, but they just have a phone, don't they? And they just Facebooking their mates how much they're having fun on their own on the chairlift.
Exactly, and sharing the ski podcast with their ski loving mates, right? I imagine that's what they probably do on the chairlift now.
Yeah, we'll listen to it,
There you go.
Right, well, I've run out of things on my notes, so I assume that's the end of the show, Ian.
It must be the end of the show.
I was going to say, Ian, last week was the first time, I think, or the week before, we recorded it live, actually, as in we video record this as well. And I was going to say, if anyone actually would like to watch it, let us know and we'll consider it. We're not sure if it's if you want to see my old man teeth and Ian's luxury apartment with nice selection of. Maybe I should change my background before we do that. Just a corner of a room with the curtains. And
I have got behind me a Sham Jam poster from 2002. If anyone you can remember that far back and that particular event.
So if you do think you'd like to watch us actually record it, then let us know and we might do that. We need at least 10% of listeners to say that they'd like to do it.
Yeah, well, I think we both got faces for audio.
That's right. Yeah, and my hair. I'm trying not to get it cut until I go back to the UK in 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks' time? Does that mean that we will be recording in the UK in 2 weeks' time?
Don't know.
Don't know. Okay, well, we'll put out those.
Yeah, there's a chance that we might be. The day after my birthday, I'll be there on Friday.
Well, in between times, I will have been out to Switzerland, so I'll be reporting on that, and hopefully some amazing snow. That's what I'm hoping for. Fingers crossed for it.
I am childishly decided that I want to start working on doing some tricks. At the age of 39, I'm going to be 39. I'm going to start seeing if I can slide on rails and do 360s on skis.
Just make sure you wear lots of protection.
Yep, that's a good advice, Ian. I'll stick some cushions in me.
Yeah. All right. Good to speak to you, Jim.
You too. Take care, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Switzerland Tourism. Bye-bye.
Bye. Right. That was excellent.